Hello, my name is Lilian Okibe. Welcome to my channel. Before I decided to lock my hair, I had been thinking about getting locks for over 2 years, and so I did a lot of research. But even though I had done so much research, there are still some things that I have discovered in my lock journey that I never knew about before. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 10 things I wish I knew before I started locks. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, then please keep on watching. Some of the things I'm going to be sharing with you are things that I just discovered now, while some of the things I'm going to be sharing are things that I knew through my research even before I got locks, but I discovered that some of you may not know because I've been getting some DMs from you guys asking similar questions. The first thing that I discovered, and I feel like this was kind of like a shock for me because I was not expecting this at all, is that you're still going to need to detangle your hair even when you have locks. Now hear me out, it's not like you're going to be having like a major detangling session, but the thing is, when you have locks, your roots are basically loose. As your hair grows out, you're going to be having locked end and loose roots, you know, and that's one of the reasons why many people maintain their hair by retwisting their hair or interlocking or things like that basically. So the root of your hair is going to be tangling and matting and merging, you know, so you're going to be having a lot of tangling at the roots. So this is something that I didn't really know, like I didn't really understand, you know, before I got locks. So now that I have locks, I'm discovering that I'm having to, you know, kind of like pull my locks apart, like separate my locks. And for you to separate your locks, that's kind of like a form of detangling your hair. So the fact that you get locks does not mean that you're not going to have to detangle your hair, except if you are going 100% free form. And that way you're just letting your hair be and letting your hair do what it wants to do. But if you're not doing that, you're still going to, from time to time, you're still going to need to have to pull your locks apart because they're going to be joining and like marrying at the roots. So detangling is something that that you're going to have to do even with locks, but it's not going to be like a major like detailed detangling where you're going to take a comb and like be running through your hair or anything like that, but you're still going to have to do some separating at the roots. And the next thing that I discovered that I didn't really know before, and this is very similar to this, is also related to my first point, is that separating your locks can be very uncomfortable and it can also be painful if you are not gentle. Now, those of you that have been watching my videos for a while now, you guys know that when I was a loose natural, I kept telling you guys that it's very, very important for you to be gentle whenever you're handling your hair, whenever you're detangling, combing and things like that. So it's not any different here, like even with locks, because by pulling your locks apart at the roots, it's a form of detangling. So you still need to be gentle, because if you're not gentle, if you're not careful, it's going to be painful, it's going to be uncomfortable. So you're still going to have to go through some discomfort when you're trying to pull your locks apart, and that's why you need to be really, really gentle and careful when you're doing this so that you don't go through pain. Then another thing, this is something that I kind of knew before I got locks, you know, but I discovered from your message, you guys, those of you that have been sending me messages via my DMs on Instagram, is that many of you don't know this. So I feel like I should include that in this video, and that is that retwists do not last. Like, that is how it is for everybody with locks. If you are retwisting your hair, just know that it's not going to last. The thing is, many of us see pictures on Instagram and like social media in general with people with like neat looking locks. You can obviously see their scalp and like everything is in place and things like that, and you think that that's how the person's hair is 100% of the time. That is not true, you know. Many times you see many people put their best picture on social media. You don't get to see their hair when it doesn't look put together, quote unquote, you know. So it is normal. You are not, if you do your retwist, if you retwist your hair and somehow it seems like it doesn't last after like a day, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, like it's like your hair is back to being frizzy and like all over the place, and you're thinking that, oh, I may be doing something wrong, maybe something I've done, maybe I did not retwist well, blah blah, all this kind of thing. Just know that it is normal. That's how it is for everybody. Retwists do not last. You see those neat where you can neatly see the scalp and everything, it doesn't last. It doesn't last. As soon as you start sweating, or as soon as, if you live in a humid environment, as soon as it rains, you don't even need to get under the rain. Like, as soon as your hair feels a little bit of moisture, like that is it starts to get frizzy again, and the neat, fresh, neat look of a retwist doesn't last. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really stress about getting my hair to look like neat and like all your scalp to be obvious and everything. That's one of the reasons why I don't bother. So the only reason why I retwist my hair is to keep my locks separated so that they do not merge. I do not fuss over the neat look because that neat look does not last, except if you opt for a different technique of maintaining your locks, like if you go with like using crochet to crochet your locks, or if you go without of like interlocking. Now that lasts much longer, but if you retwist your hair, just know that retwists do not last. So there's nothing, you're not strange, you're not doing anything wrong. That is just how it is. Then another thing I discovered, and this is something that I kind of knew, but like I did not really understand before I got locks, is that shrinkage is still a thing, you know. So when you get locks, what many people talk about is that if you start your locks with like long hair or like any form of length, your hair will shrink for it to lock. So many people talk about the fact that okay, you are going to have some shrinkage when you start out your locks, and over time as your locks mature, you are not going to have shrinkage anymore. But that's not 100% true. Yes, your hair, when your locks mature, it will not shrink as much as if you had loose natural hair, but you're still going to have some form of shrinkage. Now let me explain what I mean. So for everyone that has locks, no matter how mature your locks are, you're going to have the part of your hair that is already locked, right? And your hair is constantly growing. So the root of your hair, the base of your hair is going to be loose. Like I don't care who you are, I don't care how fast your hair locks. As your hair grows out, the base of your locks will be loose, except if you go on to interlock or something. But the normal thing is as your hair grows out, the base of your hair is going to be loose. And so because of that looseness, you know, because it's basically loose natural hair down at your base, that part of your hair that isn't locked, that is at your base, is going to behave like your normal natural hair. So if your normal natural hair has like 90% shrinkage, that part is going to have 90% shrinkage. However, the part of your hair that is locked, like now my hair is already like locked, like I have some new growth down to about here, right? But from here down to this part is locked. So the part of your hair that is locked, you're not going to have any form of shrinkage. Like how short it is while it locks remains the length. Like that, what you see is what you get for the part of your hair that is locked, right? But for the new growth, you're going to have shrinkage, and that's why many people notice that when they retwist their hair, or when they interlock, or when they basically maintain their hair, it seems like their locks appear longer, and that's because you have your loose natural hair that is shrinking. So when you retwist or when you interlock or things like that, you're kind of like stretching that loose hair, and so that translates to your hair looking like it has more length, you know, but you still have shrinkage at the roots of your hair. Your locked hair will not be shrunken, it will not shrink. What you see is what you get, but your new growth at your roots will still experience shrinkage. Now another thing I discovered, like I didn't really discover, I always knew about this even before I started my journey, but I did not understand why it was such a big deal. Now that I have locks, I totally understand why it's such a big deal, and that's that lint is a big issue. Now before I got locks, I was always wondering why people with locks were always complaining that, oh, lint, I'm trying to avoid lint, blah 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 blah, and things like that. But it is a big issue, and that is why many people try everything they can to prevent lint, because once lint gets into your hair, you can't remove it except you want to damage your locks, because it becomes like an integral, like it becomes a part of your locks, right? So you want to try as much as you can to prevent lint rather than remove lint, because once it gets into your lock, like that is it. Except you want to cut it, that is it. Like, or another thing you can do is hide the lint by dyeing your hair, you know. And the reason why lint is a big issue for many people is that even when your hair is clean, you know, the fact that you have different, you know, bulbs and clumps of fabric all over your hair in form of lint gives the appearance that your hair is dirty, you know, especially if it's of different colors, right? And that's why people try to avoid lint, because it just makes the hair look like it is dirty when it is not, and many people do not want that. So now that I have locks, I totally understand why people really talk about lint and try to prevent lint. Now the next thing that I discovered, this is also very related to my previous point of lint, is that buildup is also a big issue in the lock community, and I didn't quite understand why it was a big deal, because when you have loose natural hair, buildup is not such a big deal, because if you have build-up, all you have to do is get yourself a nice clarifying shampoo, work it into your hair. You can detangle, and then the build-up is basically gone. Or you can do like a clay mask or something, and you can get rid of build-up. With locks, it is not that simple. Even if you get the clarifying of the clarifying, if the build-up has gotten like really into your locks, it is very, very difficult to get rid of, because your hair is bound. So anything that gets in it's kind of easy for things to get into your locks, right? But it is very difficult to bring it out, because like your locks is like each lock is like a system of interconnection of coils, right? It is so complex that when something gets in, it's not as easy to get out. And that's why people try, like, I feel like with locks, prevention is better than cure. So if there's anything you don't want, try to prevent it rather than doing whatever you want and then thinking that, oh, I can cure it whenever I want to. Now it is raining outside. I don't know if you guys can hear the sound of the rain, but it's raining outside. So if you hear the background noise, just know that it is rain. Now another thing I discovered I have discovered now that I am locked is that you can still experience breakage. Many people think that because they have locks now, and basically locks are strong, you know, so you can do whatever you want to do with your hair. Like, I'm so free, I'm so easy, heck yeah, I don't need to do anything to my hair, so you blah 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 and things like that. But people do not understand that breakage is still an issue with locks. Like, your hair you can still experience breakage when you have locks, just like you can experience breakage when you have relaxed hair, or rather when you have loose natural hair. And that's because the base, but unlike natural hair, loose natural hair, most times with loose natural hair, people talk about breakage around like the length of the hair, like around the length of your hair, or around the ends of your hair. But with locks, it is the opposite. Most times people experience breakage and damage and thinning basically at the root, because the root of your hair is still pretty much loose. It is loose natural hair, so you have to treat it with care and with love, just like you would treat your loose natural hair. The base of your hair is not as strong as the length of your locks that is already locked, you know. So you have to be really gentle and really careful when you're handling that part of your hair. So thinning is a big issue, and breakage can also happen even with locks. Now, another thing that I discovered with locks, and I feel like this is something many people do not know, and that's why they go into their lock journey carelessly, and then they end up not enjoying their journey. And that is that the fact that you have locks does not give you the license to completely neglect your hair. Because for every, like, all the bad practices that you do to your locks, you're going to reap the consequences in the future. Because locks are generally stronger than loose natural hair, because you have several strands of hair bound together, right? So you kind of like have I feel like you have a little pass to be a little bit more chill with your hair care. Like, you don't have to be thinking about your hair every time and doing the most with your locks, basically, right? You don't need too much. You don't need to do too much to maintain your locks, right? However, that does not mean that you should completely neglect your locks, because if you neglect your locks will damage. Like, locks can damage too. The next point I'm going to talk about is also related to this, my previous point of getting locks is not licensed to neglect your hair, and that is that locks, even though locks are generally stronger than loose natural hair, right? Locks are not as forgiving as loose natural hair. Now I'll explain what I mean. So because your locks are basically group of strands of loose hair that are bound together, right, it is generally more difficult to damage, because the kind of stress that like this can go through, right, the kind of tension that this can withstand is a lot more than the amount of stress or like tension one strand of hair can withstand, right? So because you have locks, generally it is a little bit more difficult to damage your hair, and that's why you notice that many people have locks that flourish, because it is a little bit more difficult to damage locks. However, when you finally damage your locks, it is not as forgiving as loose natural hair. Now with loose natural hair, if you do something bad, like, it is if you are how will I put it? If you lose natural hair, when you're doing bad things to your hair, you can almost see the effect of whatever damage you are doing almost immediately, right? With locks, it's going to take a little longer because it is not as difficult to damage. So you're going to be having accumulated bad behavior, you know, on your locks before you will finally see the repercussion, right? And at that point, when you are seeing the repercussion, there's really nothing you can do to solve the problem. Unlike loose natural hair that you can detect early and then you can help. Like for example, someone who has cancer, right? People usually advise that you go for cancer screening and checks and things like that often, so that peradventure you get cancer, right? It's like your doctor will notice quick, and the earlier you notice the cancer, the higher your chances of surviving, right? You know, that's what doctors say. That's how it works with locks. We lose natural hair because you are seeing each strand of hair like literally every day. It is easy for you to notice when you're causing damage, and so you can easily retrace your steps and, you know, tackle the problem. But with locks, because you have strands of hair locked together into one, you're most likely not seeing all your hair at once, right? And that means that when you're finally seeing the repercussion of your bad behavior, right, the deed has been done. The damage has been done. So this is something I feel like many people do not talk about, but it's actually a thing. Then another thing I noticed with now that I have locks, and this is something that I didn't really know about, is that the color of your locks will eventually change over time as a result of sun exposure. It's completely normal. It does not mean that you're dirty. It does not mean that your hair is dirty. It does not mean that you're doing something wrong. It does not mean that you have put a chemical in your hair, blah blah, that kind of thing. This is only normal for the color of your hair to change due to sun exposure over time. And that's why for many people, you notice that the ends of their locks are kind of like lighter in color than like the base and like the roots of their locks, right? And that's because obviously the ends are like the oldest part of your hair, so they have been exposed to the sun longer, you know, so that's why the effect of the sun is showing more. I've also started noticing a little bit of color changes around, like especially the crown of my hair. It looks like it's not so obvious, but if I put my hair like if I just put the ends exposed to light, I don't know, that there are certain angles that will be in that I can see. But now, because my room is well lit, because this is like my studio for my YouTube video, so it's well lit, so you can't really tell the difference. But whenever I kind of like put my hair, like when there is light just around the tip of my hair, you can kind of see the slight changes in color. So my hair is already changing color, but you can reduce the speed. You can reduce how fast this happens by using things like oils that kind of like help reduce the effect of the sun on your hair. For me, that's one of the reasons why I still use shea butter even though I have locks now. So I'm not saying you should use shea butter for your locks, because so many people say that shea butter causes buildup, but that's just me, what I like to do. And that's why the changes are not as fast in my hair because of shea butter, but like it's kind of like inevitable. Your locks are going to change color over time. So that's something that I didn't really know about, and it's kind of like weird seeing the changes. So yeah, with that, we come to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if this is your first time on my channel and you'd like to see more videos from me and how my locks progress, then definitely subscribe and make sure you click the notification bell so that every time I upload a new video you get a notification. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in my next video. This rain is just, I don't know. I just hope I can remove the sound of the rain, because like it's so noisy right now. Anyway, see you guys in my next video.
We've been on and off again and again. I don't know which way we're going, no control. You push me, then you pull me back in. Don't know if I can decipher how your mind works. Yeah, you leave me wondering what it's like to feel your skin. I will keep on trying to